Good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome to our SafeSense workshop. I am your library director, Pamela Monroe, and we are so glad that you're joining us for today's very special program to help you navigate the internet safely and confidently. This program is a result of strong community collaboration, and I want to thank each and every community partner who came together to make this event possible. And if you are here, one of the partners who planned this, could you please just raise your hand or stand up so we can at least acknowledge you? Wonderful. Thank you so much. We are also very honored to have District 3 Commissioner Rick Miner, who is here with us today. Thank you for your leadership and support on initiatives like this that help to strengthen our community. So, Commissioner Miner, I'm going to pass the mic to you.
Hello, how are you all doing today? I apologize for my voice. It's a lot worse than it really is, but it sounds a lot worse than it really is. But my name is Rick Miner. I'm a Leon County Commissioner that represents District 3 in Leon County. It's roughly the northwest part of the county. But of course, all of our county commissioners work for everyone in the county. So very happy to have all of you here today. I wanted to speak very briefly about the partners that have worked so hard for so many months on this course. We have a terrific group of organizations that have been working together on this very hard. Tallahassee State College is a leader in artificial intelligence education statewide and around the nation. We're lucky to have them. The Florida Technology Council does statewide policy on technology. And then I want to give a special welcome and thanks to the Cybersecurity Community Outreach Organization, FSU, SISCU. The content that you're going to see today has been developed almost entirely by this very talented group of Florida State University graduates that are members of SISCU. So please give them a big hand. You're gonna meet them individually in just a couple minutes. I also want to give a very special thanks for Miss Christy Tillman. Christy Tillman is a technical design lead that has worked with Netflix, Facebook, Slack, and then she recently relocated back to Tallahassee to continue her career. And so, Christy, if you wouldn't mind just standing up really quickly, let's give a big welcome. Thank you to Christy Tillman. An extremely talented woman and leader globally when it comes to technology. And we are so lucky to have her in Tallahassee as a project manager for this training. We also have the Florida State University College of Communication and Information, the Big Bend Minority Chamber of Commerce, two private sector companies, I2X Solutions and Ruvos, who are based in Tallahassee, who also lent their expertise, the Capital City Chamber of Commerce, and the Community Foundation in North Florida. So really wanted to highlight these partners because without them, we wouldn't be here today. So again, thank you very much, all of you, for being here. You're going to really, we've seen and worked on this training. This is very helpful information. By the end of this course, you're going to be really well suited to face the challenges that are out there that are basically trying to get all of us, fooling all of us into parting with our money. And you're going to really get a lot of value out of this training. With that, I'm going to hand it to Matthew Christoffel. He is the lead instructor for SISCU. So let's go ahead and give a big welcome to Matthew here.
Thank you. All righty. Hey, everyone. How's everyone doing today? Good. Glad to hear it. So I just wanted to briefly introduce myself. So my name is Matthew Christoffel. I am a graduate student at FSU majoring in cybersecurity. I founded the Cybersecurity Community Outreach Organization in order to do just what we're doing today, spreading cyber safety awareness to those that may be vulnerable, as well as, we present to high schools and other things to help inspire the future of cybersecurity professionals. I also have my fantastic fellow members over here who will be helping out with the presentation today. So if you guys want to come up, I'll briefly introduce yourselves.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Similar to Matthew, I'm also a graduate student at Florida State University right now studying cybersecurity. Also did my undergrad at FSU in computer science. I'm the vice chair of our organization. I've been with Matthew since the beginning of this organization, and I'm just really excited to see how far it's grown, and we're very glad to be here today. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Sophia Knox. I'm a master's student as well at Florida State studying cybersecurity. I got my undergrad in computer science. I've been the secretary of this organization for ever since the past summer, and I've really enjoyed being able to come out and present and help you all get the information that you need to stay safe.
Hello everyone, I'm Quinones and I am the treasurer of CSCO, and I'm also a master's student studying cybersecurity, and yeah, we're all very excited for this event.
All right, thank you guys. All right. So as we go throughout this presentation, one thing that I want to heavily incentivize is for you guys to ask questions. We're here for you guys, and a lot of our presentations derive their value from answering your guys' questions. So, you know, the presentation will only improve with the questions you guys ask. And another thing, if you guys have any like stories you would like to share, you know, we would absolutely love to hear that through shared stories. Oh, do you want to come up? Sweet. Through your guys' shared stories, we can help get a little bit better of an understanding as to what sort of attacks and, you know, attackers are after here.
Hi there, everyone. I'm a perfectly normal person like most of y'all. I thought I was pretty smart, but it turns out I'm really stupid. About 2 weeks ago, I had gotten a new computer. I was so excited about it. Went to open my email, and all of a sudden my computer was taken over, and it said, "Call the Microsoft help desk immediately." I should have known better, but they get you because they get under your skin. And I did call the Microsoft help desk, and she said, "I've got to run a scan on your computer to make sure you don't have any other viruses in there." And she came up with all kinds of horrible things that had happened to my computer, different kinds of viruses that were on there, including child pornography. And they said because child pornography came up, they had to notify the FBI, and I couldn't talk to anybody, not even the people at the bank. So this is really sickening, and I'm sharing this with you because it's really meaningful for you to take this under consideration, and that is not to just jump at the first thing you see wrong with your computer. I thought I was talking to the Microsoft help desk, not a scammer. And they talked me into going to my bank and withdrawing $10,000 and taking it to a Bitcoin machine on West Orange Avenue, the one that just burned down 1 week after this happened to me. So you are mortified when this happens. You can't believe how stupid you are, but it happens all the time. I filed a police report. We filed an FBI report. We filed a report with the Florida Trade Commission. But once you go and transfer that money to a Bitcoin machine, you have lost it forever. So I was so glad that I was able to attend this meeting, and I have worked with wonderful people at my bank who encouraged me to come and give a testimony to them. This is what can happen, and it's a nightmare, and there are things that you can do and that these people are going to help you to do to recognize how to get out of it when it happens. It's really easy to get out of it if you know what to do. So with that, I'm going to turn this back over to Matthew here. And I hope you all don't ever have that experience which happened to me. Thanks.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. And one thing that really stood out to me is you're not stupid if you fall for these sort of things. These are trained professionals specifically trained to scam you. They know how to find out what makes a person vulnerable and they know how to exploit that and direct you every step of the way to losing your money. Nobody here is stupid. If you fall victim, you are a victim to these attackers. So always keep that in mind. Today, we want to just try to help advise you on some things that you can do to help it be just a little bit more resilient to these attacks. So once again, thank you so much for sharing your story. Through awareness, we can help be a little bit safer when we're browsing the internet and existing in today's world. So throughout this presentation, we're going to talk about just a few different points. Firstly, we're going to talk about foundational AI literacy, demystifying AI and its role in daily life. So AI is becoming much more commonplace throughout all of today's online world. So we want to just briefly talk a little bit about that to demystify some of those, how it works and other things like that. Next, we're going to go into scams and misinformation, spotting fraud, fake content. Then we're going to talk a little bit about reporting and recourse. What can we do if we are a falling victim to a scam? Then we're going to speak a little bit about personal safety, protecting privacy, data, and devices. Lastly, we will talk just a little bit about productivity and AI how-tos, things that can help us improve our quality of life using some of these new tools that are coming out. So without further ado, let's get right on into foundational AI literacy. So does anybody want to go ahead and raise your hand for what's the first thing that pops into your head when you think of AI? Yes. Face ID, facial recognition. Okay. Yes. Chat GPT. Okay. Awesome. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Yes, right here.
Modified pictorial content.
Modified.
Especially in terms of current events.
Okay, modified pictorial content. We will also get into that. Okay, these are all fantastic answers. So a lot of us already have some idea and seen some things on the news about artificial intelligence. So what is it? Well, AI are machines that mimic human-like thinking to make smart decisions. So just as a little reminder, AI is inspired by humans. It is modeled to think how people think, learn, and solve problems. And it is software, not consciousness. It is programs and algorithms, not human-like awareness. So it is computers designed to think like how people think. What it is good at: recognizing speech, understanding language, and generating images and text. So with generative AI, this is a relatively new one that came up in the last 5 years, which we'll speak a little bit about. And finally, it is not infallible. It is designed after humans, after all, and we ourselves are not infallible. So like humans, they can make mistakes and have their own limitations. Another thing, it is everywhere. Over 77% of devices feature some form of AI, not necessarily generative AI like ChatGPT or things that generate images, but it is also used extensively in higher education. Over 700 plus institutions have AI policies put in place. In the workforce, AI is used extensively. Employers are now expected to have basic AI familiarity from new hires. Within all of our phones, how many of us here have a smartphone? All of our smartphones nowadays have some form of AI technology put in place. And as of February 2026, we had a member of the audience mention ChatGPT specifically. ChatGPT has over 900 million weekly active users. So this specific use case of AI is widespread. So more on that specifically. One of the more popular applications of AI nowadays, and one of the most advertised, are generative AI assistants. So things like OpenAI's ChatGPT, Google Gemini. So how many of us have, how many of us have made a Google search in the last, 6 or so months? Immediately at the top, we all see the AI overview. So whether or not you know it, you're already using Google Gemini. You're using Google's AI generative assistant. And then we also have Anthropic Code. So these generative AI assistants create new content such as text, images, audio, video, and code. How many of us have used these, explicitly gone out of our way to use tools like AI, to use like OpenAI's ChatGPT? Awesome. So some of us have actually used some of these tools with intent. So how do these exactly work? Well, firstly, we all offer it a prompt, and then it predicts what the next words should be. All this generative AI is doing is it's predicting what the next words in a sentence should be, and then it outputs that to us. And this actually is working wonders now due to many different advancements that have happened over the last 6 or so years. So and now we've reached the point of application for these new tools. And there's no better example of a fantastic application of this than AlphaFold DeepMind, which has cataloged over 200 million protein structures, giving scientists a deeper understanding of how diseases worked. There's also uses in cancer detection, pandemic response, and drug discovery. So the medical applications for these new AI tools is absolutely limitless, and we're seeing actual improvements in our lives right now. Yes.
I took a friend to a doctor
Mhm.
yesterday, and the first question out of her mouth is, "Do you mind if I use AI?"
Mhm.
But the other part of that is when I took her to a previous appointment, if I could use my little recording device, she said that that violated HIPAA.
Mhm.
So I think, to me, that was kind of an issue.
Interesting.
Yeah, so these are obviously some things that take in consideration, because one thing we'll get into, any information that you actually provide a lot of these AI assistants is actually no longer yours. It enters the public domain. They can use it how they see fit. So we'll get into that a little bit later in the presentation, but that's a fantastic point to bring up. And in fact, I believe we go into that specifically related to our own medical privacy as well. So thank you so much. So how does it know so much? How is it able to accomplish all of these variety of tasks? Well, firstly, it absorbs mountains and mountains of data, reading billions of examples of web pages, books, images, and conversations. And from this, it starts making guesses. It's told how far off it was from the expected output, and then it repeats this process billions and billions of times. To me, that's actually very similar to how we learn, as children. And as it does this, it gets way better with practice. It recognizes patterns after many repetitions, like predicting the next word in a sentence, like our generative AI ChatGPT example. So, and just as a reminder, it predicts, it doesn't actually understand. It produces answers by calculating what's most likely to come next, not by actually thinking. So there's a very big difference there. And you might be predicting that this may have some considerations, and some of us may have experienced this ourselves whenever we were making a recent Google search. AI hallucinations. So what is this? Well, how many of us have experienced when we Google something and the AI overview comes up, or we ask AI something and it starts making up facts? It'll start making up fake citations, inventing names, and start stating confidently incorrect facts. How many of us have experienced this recently?
No.
How would you know that? That's a very important question, because sometimes it may be actually incredibly difficult for us to know this. Take for an example, what if a lawyer starts to use these tools, right? And the AI confidently makes up cases, makes up names of people that never existed, right? This has serious implications because we may not know. How do we know? There's a very important thing that we must do when using these tools, and that is trust but verify. We can trust that for the most part, it will be correct. But if there's an important fact that has consequences, if we believe it, we must verify those. So that's just a very important step of using these new tools. Why does this happen? Well, remember, it's just predicting what comes next in a sentence. Currently, there's no consistently working fact-checking mechanism in place. And this is more likely on recent events or niche topics. Just recently, for some research, I tried looking up some recent news articles specifically for 2026. And the AI output was very adamant that it was 2024. So as much as I tried to discuss with it, in fact, citing that you had brought up events that happened in 2026, it was still very confident that it was 2024. So some uses may vary with these tools, but that's just another step of I trust it. Like, it gave me a valid news article, but I need to verify that it's 2026. So thankfully that was pretty easy to do. Yes.
To verify, get the little AI one. It
Well,
usually answers a question to the recipe I want.
Mhm.
And so to verify, I just keep scrolling down and go to other websites, but they're gonna be AI generated too, without telling me. So how am I gonna verify? Cause
So one thing that I would, so how do you verify if, if you're scrolling down Google and you're looking at some of these websites that may themselves have AI generated content? Well, I would highly recommend always trying to find those reputable news sources, not just like the first few websites or things like that. Any of your choosing, your reputable news sources that you already trust, right? Those might be better places to find and verify the facts that you're receiving. So that's just one recommendation that I have. But obviously, it's going to get just a little bit more difficult as these tools become more commonplace. But that's just one suggestion that I have. So, what should we do? Verify your information, cross-check with reliable and independent sources, and always use AI as a starting point. Check with cross-verify across many different resources, many different websites to make sure they're all saying similar and the same things. Because AI is predicting a lot of these outputs, and it may not be correct across all. If we see many different outputs that are the same, it's more likely that that information is correct. So we can do that across many different websites. Yes.
Information was wrong. And I told them it was wrong. Like, oh, my mistake, you are.
It absolutely will do that. And it will always say, my mistake, or very commonly it'll say, my mistake, you are absolutely correct. Often, even if I'm wrong. So I've had that happen a few times. So trust, but verify. Thankfully, I went across some different websites, found the correct information. So it's just one extra step we have to use and take into consideration when using these tools. So as mentioned before, with photo editing and deepfakes. So deepfakes are fake videos and fake images created using deep learning, which is some research used to develop some of these new AI tools. So remember, unfortunately nowadays, as many of us may be aware of at this point with all of the recent articles about this, seeing is no longer believing, at least in the digital sense. AI is incredibly capable at generating photos and videos of real people saying or doing things that never happened. And this is incredibly commonplace on social media nowadays. So just as a rule of thumb for the future here, before you share, check. Check if the source of the image or video has a verified track record. Validate, trust but verify, if the story is appeared anywhere credible. So once again, your trusted news sources. A fantastic example of this, and one that I fell for all the way back in 2023, was a single AI generated image of Pope Francis wearing a white designer jacket that went viral and fooled millions of people worldwide. So this is in fact a fake image generated using, it's a deepfake. One of the ways that you can tell with this image specifically is on the bottom left, the hand doesn't look quite right. And you may have heard this sometimes. A great way to tell if a photo is fake nowadays is, with the hands and other things like that. However, this technology is always evolving and getting better and better and better. And now that may not necessarily be the most reliable way to tell if an image has been faked. So this is where we run into a important consideration. And as we transition into scams and misinformation, recognizing threats and protecting yourselves online. So just as a brief overview, going back into the previous story here, it's important to note that scammers are skilled professionals, often working in organized teams and are coached explicitly to scam you. They target your emotions. They're incredibly capable of this. They have a playbook of things that they can discover about you that you're vulnerable about and how to use that to get you to part with your money. And this can happen to anyone, just as we have seen earlier in this presentation. No one is at fault for falling for these. You are a victim. And oftentimes, these are difficult to not fall for. They will exploit urgency, like we saw. They will exploit, that you could get in trouble for having certain things on your computer, right? And the moment this happens, the moment this urgency takes place, you have to act fast. You're no longer thinking straight. You must take action now, and you're going to trust this person that you are communicating with. That is what they are relying on. And that's how we become the victims here. Anyone can fall for this. And it is not your fault. So when in doubt, one of the most important things that you can take away from this entire presentation is just pause. Whenever somebody is telling you to act with a sense of urgency, just pause, don't act, and talk to somebody you trust. Yes.
Say that the same incident almost happened to me.
Mhm.
And one of the things that they said was, and don't talk to anybody in your family. Don't talk to
Yeah.
They even gave me like to validate themselves. They even gave me a password or some kind of a word that I would know that it was them and they would know that it was me to validate themselves. So what I did is, and they had directed me to go to withdraw money and take it to a Bitcoin, which I never did. But what I did do is I went to my bank and then I went to the police department and I was pretty proud of myself. I actually had them believing that I was en route to find this Bitcoin machine. In this case, it was on Pensacola Street. And I played them along to the point where, like I said, I went to the TV and I actually had the officer talk to the person and say, hey, you're talking to an officer at the Tallahassee Police Department. But I mean, the urgency part about, don't talk to anybody in your family. We'll call you back tomorrow morning. This is the password. This is the word that verifies that it's me calling you and how we communicate. So it was unbelievable, the extent of the scam, the extent of the lying, the extent of the hooking you in. It was incredible.
So thank you so much for sharing that, because we've already seen from both of these stories, firstly, to act with urgency, to try to get you to be alarmed about things held on your computer. You're about to be in trouble urgently if you don't take action now. And from both of these stories, to not contact anybody else, which these are two of the defenses we have to help us not fall victim to these. Pause, take a moment to breathe and think, and then absolutely talk to a trusted family member or person. So that's what they're trying to stop you from doing, as we've seen with both of these examples. Once again, thank you both for sharing your stories. So yes.
When I was talking with them, and I questioned them, who are you? I'm not believing you. They passed me off to a bank person, a bank employee from my bank. They knew who my bank was, and they passed me off to a Truist employee. So
Supposedly.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll get going, but if you guys want to talk at the end of the presentation, we'll absolutely have more time for questions. So another aspect of this, we mentioned deepfakes before. Now imagine if scammers were to combine these deepfake videos with these phishing scams. So a real example of this happened with the Brad Pitt AI romance scam, where unfortunately this individual lost hundreds of thousands of dollars to faked videos of Brad Pitt asking for money so that he could get out of the hospital and be with this person. This is something that really happened. Now, once again, you may be thinking all sorts of things, but the important thing is this is a ruse developed over time. They're capable of developing these videos to start influencing your emotions, your loneliness, whatever you may be vulnerable about in the moment. They are capable of finding that. And at that point, you're the victim. Always remember that. You're not stupid. You're not at fault. We're all just victims here. They are capable now of doing things like voice cloning. They can clone family members in voices to demand emergency money transfers. In another case, in 2024, an employee transferred $25 million to a fake video call impersonating his chief financial officer. So this can happen to security. This can happen to professionals in the field. It happens to everybody all of the time. And recently, deepfake celebrity videos promote fraudulent crypto schemes. Many of us have probably seen some of these in the news as well. So these scams are happening everywhere all the time. What do you guys think? Is this real or is this a deep fake? Fake? Just raise your hand so you can tell me quickly like why you think it's fake. Yes.
Facebook gonna give anybody $1,000.
It's a giveaway.
How do they benefit? How does Facebook benefit?
That's a very, very good thinking right there. Anybody else have any other particular things as to why you believe? Yes. Too good to be true. So just like here, fantastic, fantastic. We'll get into that a little bit later. That's one of the best ways you can quickly identify if something is too good to be true, it often is too good to be true. So thank you for putting that out there. This is in fact a deep fake. In fact, this deep fake was made by Samuel Jacob Chacko over at FSU, who actually won the FSU's competition for making deep fakes. So this is top of the line stuff, and this is fantastic. So you guys, good job, guys. So just as a quick guess, if anybody wants to raise your hand for this question, what do you think is the total amount of cyber-enabled crime and fraud losses reported to the FBI in 2024? So 2 years ago at this point. 2 billion? I heard 2 billion. Billions. Here, let's get some hands so I can get some numbers here. 25 billion. 2 billion. I'm starting an auction. Okay. So turns out in 2024 in the US, 16.6 billion losses were reported. There was over 850,000 complaints in 2024, 33% increase in losses from the previous year. So this probably has increased monumentally in recent times due to these due to the deepfakes and other advances with generative AI that can use to power these scams. So there's 250,000 reports with actual losses, with each of those having about $20,000 lost on average. So some individuals may have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars here. So this is very important stuff. And these statistics only come from us reporting to IC3, to the FBI, to these people that we were the victims. Remember, you're just a victim here. If you report, that's how things like these statistics come. And then, legislators can use these statistics to take action against these things. And that only happens if you report them. That's one of the most important things, is that if you were the victim, we have to report it. So just quickly, I want to go into the different kinds of phishing attacks. So we've spoken about a few different ones, but getting into the weeds here, there's phishing, where calls posing as your bank, the IRS, or tech support. How many of us have received a what we believe to be a scam call in the last week or so? I've received dozens and dozens yesterday. I am on the wrong list or something. How many of us have received, so submission, scam text messages, such as fake delivery alerts, bank warnings, prize notifications, typically have malicious links in them. How many of us believe we've received these within the last weeks? I get them all the time. How about email phishing? Fake emails designed to look identical to the real thing. Show of hands. So as we can see, we're all getting this. We're all fighting this together. And then a very unfortunate one is spear phishing, targeted phishing that uses your personal details to seem more credible. So going more into these individually, we have phishing. So one of these, essentially with phishing, there's a pressure and urgency. Scammers are intended to keep you on the line, to stop you from pausing, thinking, or calling someone else. We've seen this from two different examples today, where they often have fake caller IDs showing that your bank or a family member means nothing. Any number can be spoofed. Almost every single scam call that I get has the area code for my hometown. So I no longer answer any phone calls with my own area code that isn't already in my phone. I let it all go to voicemail. And did you know that it only takes about 4 seconds of audio to clone your voice? How many of us have a personalized voicemail? So just consider, if you have a personalized voicemail, that's all the audio they need to actually clone your voice. So that's an important consideration.
Yes, should not be in your vocabulary on the phone.
Because then they can just replay that and use it. Yeah. So another example that is actually very similar to Mary's that just came up is a real example that happened with a BitStop machine here in Tallahassee. So this all started with a scam caller informing the person that their assets were in danger, instructing them that they needed to act urgently, go to the bank and get their assets from their bank out and into someplace safe. So at this point, this person may have been vulnerable in this moment. They are believing it. They're, completely overridden with anxiety and fear, and they need to act now. This person is posing to be somebody trusted on the phone. So they go to their bank and withdraw the money. As they get to the bank, they were informed by the tellers and asked, "Are you being scammed?" In which case, the scammer on the phone actually said, "Tell them I'm your nephew. We need to keep your assets safe." So they proceeded with this and actually went and withdrew the money and went to the gas station where they deposited the money. And this gets a little more interesting here because after they deposited the money, they, realized eventually they were scammed, and they decided to call their bank to see, how they can respond and how they can get their money back. As they called their bank, unbeknownst to them, they actually, as they called the bank, were rerouted back to the scammers. A lot of us may be wondering how this happened. And unfortunately, at this point, they lost an additional $14,000 through almost the exact same steps. Now, you may be wondering, they called their bank. How did they get back on the phone to the scammers? About 2 months after this incident occurred, a news article was released about a malicious piece of software put on Android phones that would redirect your calls to scammers. So this was consistently evolving technology. And what likely happened was this scammer actually had them download a piece of software onto their phone, and that contained this malicious software. So this is a top of the line, and you can see how sophisticated this can actually get. So remember, we're all just victims. They can get very advanced. Yes.
The repair shop to have them run scans on my computer to make sure that no malware virus was downloaded to my computer. And that was really important, to do. And they said my phone was infected too.
So this is just another, So this is just another example. Yeah.
An example about the Android, how did it get fixed?
How did it get fixed? They likely had somebody wipe the phone of all of the software currently on it. That's one way that you can actually do it. Or you can give it to a professional to have them professionally wipe it. There's a few options out there. You can feel free to talk to us after the presentation to discuss some of those options. So with this being said, we're going to go ahead and move on. We're going to have Sophia come up to talk a little bit more in detail about some of the other forms of phishing.
All right, so now we're going to be talking a little bit about smishing. Now, all of these different things that end in ishing, they're all essentially the same, but they're just happening through different forms of communication and media. So smishing is the same thing as phishing, which Matt was just going over, except it's going to be through SMS or texting. That's why I got the name smishing. How many of us recently have gotten either a text message saying, like, we have some sort of issue with your SunPass, or you have a package that you need to pick up. I know I get them all the time. I got one, I think yesterday, about like transportation, and like I needed to fix my registration and pay fees, or there's going to be legal issues. So they'll use a lot of different techniques. They'll say whatever story that they want to use to convince you that you need to give them information, to click on a link, to provide bank account information, whatever it may be. They could even tell you that you won, let's say, like a giveaway. And so in order to claim your prize, you need to click on this link. They can use a lot of different stories, but they're all just trying to get your information. And what we see here on the right is what it looks like from the scammer's point of view. There can just be lots and lots of phones, and they're just trying to mass send these texts out in hopes that the more people who see it, the more people who they can unfortunately scam. And another type, this is an example of a classic phishing. And what you can see is supposedly this is an email. from Bank of America. And it's saying specifically that you have unusual activity on your account. So maybe somebody is making purchases that you didn't authorize, we need to fix this. And so please sign into your account here at this link. But a couple things to know is here at the top, it's supposed to be from Bank of America, but Comcast.net, I don't know, that doesn't quite make sense to me. I would assume Bank of America would have somebody contacting me with a Bank of America email. And another thing that can be noted is it's to undisclosed recipients. If Bank of America is specifically telling you that your account has an issue, why are they who else are they emailing about that? So that's also a big red flag. So you just want to be able to stop and ask yourself these questions does this make sense? Is this somebody that I should trust? Another example would be definitely don't click on any links or call any phone numbers in these emails because once again, they want you to call that phone number because they're trained in convincing you to provide information. And you don't want to click on any links you don't trust either. An example here shows if you hover over the link but without clicking on it, it will show you where it's actually going to. So if it's claiming it's just bankofamerica.com, well, it says it's going to bit.do, so that also can be a red flag, something to make you stop and pause and think, okay, this doesn't make sense, I shouldn't trust this. But as we've been talking about with AI and technology is currently advancing, these attacks and these little clues, the scammers are picking up on the fact that we are learning about these different clues and they're trying to constantly evolve and make their attacks seem more realistic. So I want to start with the Amazon.com one. These both, if you're just looking really quickly, you've got a lot of emails, you're just trying to get through them all, they look very similar, but the real one has an M and the fake one is an R and an N together. So they're trying to make these URLs look as realistic as possible. I know if I'm just going through my emails and I'm clicking on things and I'm not thinking through it, I might click on that thinking I'm on Amazon's webpage, then you're there and you think you're on the real Amazon.com, but in reality, it's a fake website. And another example here, we have Apple.com, almost the same, except that L is actually a 1. And that's really easy to overlook, especially if you're going quickly, you've got lots of things to get through. And the top one looks exactly the same. And so I want to explain a little bit about that because that's really concerning because I can't tell the difference. And so on our end, it looks identical, but on the back end for the computer, they're different keyboards with different letters and different types. So all of those letters might be English Latin character, except for one might be a character from, let's say, the Cyrillic alphabet, which also has a letter that looks like an A. So the computer knows that that's from a different language, that's from a different keyboard, yet we can't tell that difference. And so that's why those links look the same, but they're actually different.
Would that be one you can hover over or not?
Probably not, because it would look the same to you.
Okay.
And so what do we do? Because that's that very. And so the main point with this is that gone are the days where you can just trust that if you see a typo, you're good. You might still see an email from Bank of America coming from Comcast. You know that should be a red flag and to stop. But even if it does look okay, it's now important that we have a healthy level of skepticism. It's no longer about, does this photo have 6 fingers or not? It's no longer, does this come from the right email address? Now it's, does this make sense? Because this technology is constantly evolving. It's more important that we ask questions like, should I trust this? Why would I trust this? Is it too good to be true? And we're going to go into more of the flags that you can notice, urgency being the main one. Something else that you can do is to look it up the slow way. If Bank of America says that you've got something on your account, you can go to Google, go to the Bank of America website that way, and log into your account, and you know you're on the right website. And if there is an issue with your account, chances are it would be there. Another really important thing, as we've mentioned and highlighted so far, is to get a second opinion. Ask your family members. If anybody ever tells you not to, that is a very big red flag. You want to get support. People are here for you, and they don't want you to talk to them because they know that if you ask your family members or your friends if this seems legit, that you're stopping to think, and then you might realize that it is a scam. Another thing that you can do is to create a family code word. This can be especially helpful with phishing when somebody's calling you and claiming that they're let's say your sibling or your nephew, if you have a code word, you can ask them, hey, what was our code word? And then if they don't know it, which the scammer won't, then that's a big red flag as well. And also, if you're on the phone and you're starting to feel suspicious, like this doesn't seem right, they're telling me I have to act now, they're telling me that I can't talk to anybody about this, it's okay to hang up. Because if it's a real business, they're not going to be upset with you about that. But a scammer is trying to keep you on the phone for as long as they can because that's how they're talking to you and getting information.
The only problem with that code word is how do you share it with people that you don't live with? Accessing all the stuff in the world now.
Yeah, so you'll have to be careful about communicating that code word and making sure that's
Right.
Another example is scareware. It's pretty self-explanatory by the name. The whole point of scareware is to make you feel fear. It uses a lot of urgency. Once again, it wants you to act now. There might be a really big phone number or a link to click, but don't click it, don't call them. Because professionals will not try to scare you. So in any situation, whether it's you're on a website and you see a pop-up like this, if it's an email, if it's a text message, the form or the media doesn't matter. What matters is a real professional business does not want to scare you. They're going to give you a normal amount of time to fix an issue. But these scammers, they want you to give them your information. And so they're going to use whatever tactics that they can, and they want you to feel fear because then you're acting out of emotion. You have 2 minutes, you have 1 day to get this figured out. You're doing it instead of stopping and thinking and pausing and going, I really shouldn't be doing this in the first place. A couple ways that you can protect yourself from scareware. You could use an ad blocker. This might help with the ones that you would see pop up on the website. If you're ever on a website and you get a pop-up and the pop-up has nothing to do with the website, that can be, or it's telling you that now you have a virus and so now you've got to do all of these things. I would just exit out of that browser. Don't go back to the website. If you want to be extra safe, you can turn off your computer, but just don't go back to that website and don't click anything on that pop-up. Another thing you can do, you can still validate the message, of course, if you see typos, if things aren't adding up, but also knowing, just ask yourself, does this make sense? Is this somebody that I trust? Don't click on anything unless you are confident that that is a safe link, that is a correct phone number. And staying updated can also be helpful because if there is, let's say, that type of vulnerability in the program that allows scammers to, call somebody that you don't mean to call, if you keep your devices updated, that will help because as Apple, as Samsung, as these companies realize that these vulnerabilities are there, they will put out updates to help fix those security issues. Yes.
I have a question about pop-ups, because I get them all the time, and it
Yes.
must say, your computer is not protected or something or other. And there will be a little X up in the upper right-hand corner. Is it okay to click that X to get rid of it?
Are there any other X's? If you still have the browser window, I would just click on your browser window, not the X on that pop-up. Or some applications you can like for example, if there's at the bottom, you might see your Safari, you can click on that and click quit. So there are other ways to get around that I would recommend.
And don't click on that little X.
I would try and avoid, I would even shut down the computer and turn it back on. I would avoid clicking on the pop-up. Yes.
There's a game I play and there's all the ads popping up for cardio. Is that legit?
I'm not specifically sure on that one, but you can ask some of us after the presentation and we'll make sure we get your question. Yes.
Let's say for the apps on our phones like Amazon or Bank of America. You talk about going through Google, which I never use Google anyway, but how safe are the apps as opposed to putting URL?
That's something actually we're going to mention in the protecting your privacy section as well, because some of these apps, especially free apps, they're going to make money off of you somehow if the app is free. And so we're going to get into a bit about how different applications and different things which are free, how they can be using your personal privacy. And we'll get to that in a later part of the presentation. Another type, this is very similar to scareware, which we just went over, but it discusses a different type of emotion, and it's called a baiting attack. So it's the same thing as what we just discussed, except Now, instead of fear being the primary emotion, they're going to be trying to use excitement or joy. But once again, something really important to note is that urgency is still being used oftentimes. It's like you only have 1 minute and 22 seconds. You just won an Apple iPhone 13, and you have 1 minute to fill out this survey, and then you'll get your phone. So some things to note here. This makes no sense. It sounds way too good to be true. It is too good to be true. Also, why would I have 2 minutes to fill out a survey? That also doesn't make sense. And why would Best Buy even be randomly giving out iPhone 13s to people? So just making sure that you stop, you think, you ask yourself, does it make sense? I cannot emphasize that enough. Here's another example. Pay only $1. Give us all of your bank account information so I can get that $1 from you. And there's only 5 in stock though, so you gotta do it right now. So once again, urgency is being used. They're trying to get information from you that you shouldn't be sharing with somebody that you don't know. And in the moment, it can be really easy to fall for this because you're like, wow, this is a great deal, and your emotions are you're feeling really excited, and so. But you just need to stop. You need to think and be like, okay, I don't think this is legitimate. You can ask a family member if you're like, hey, should I do this? And they might be like, well, I don't know. So some long-term scams. This is different from what we were just talking about because these don't use urgency. These are the opposite. This can take months, even years. And this could be like somebody on Facebook who friends you and you accept it, you don't know who they are, and at first they're just trying to gain your trust. It's a slow build of trust over time. And so at first, money, investing, anything suspicious won't come up. They'll just try and get to know you on a personal level. And then as they feel like they start to gain your trust, that's when they might casually bring up, I've been investing in cryptocurrency and I've made this much money. You should try it too. Here's an app, here's a website that you can go, just do like $5. It's fine. You can see if you make any money or not. And so then you go to this app or this website that they specifically created and you put in, let's say, $5, and then it shows that you made a certain amount profit. And so you're like, great, I'll put in a little more. And they try and persuade you to keep putting in money. And then at some point, you're going to start wanting to take that money out. And then there will be issues with the website or fees. And they're just going to be like, well, you can put in more money in order to help us fix this issue. And they're just going to try and get as much money as they can until you eventually realize it's a scam and then they'll disappear. And so these are also important to look out for. It often targets those that are lonely and looking for relationships, but that's not exclusive to that. It could also just be a random person trying to pose as a friend. Once again, there's all kinds of different ways and stories that they can use, but this one is trying to gain your trust over time. And so to sum up the scam section, the first thing and the main thing you want to remember is that urgency is a huge red flag. If anybody's ever trying to get you to act right now or give you like 1 day to fix something that really a professional business would maybe give you a week to do, just analyzing, does it make sense that they want me to do this quickly and this late notice? Also, requests for secrecy. Don't tell your family about this is a huge red flag. If they're telling you to lie and say that your nephew's on the phone, that's also a big red flag because businesses aren't going to be using tactics like this. Any types of threats that you're going to be arrested or legal action, that can also be huge. And something currently that's a big deal is they're asking you to pay in cryptocurrency, in Bitcoin, in gift cards because they don't want a paper trail. If you use your bank card or your credit card, you can go to the bank and have that transaction canceled. But they want gift cards, they want cryptocurrency because they don't want a paper trail, they don't want to be traced, they want to get your money and keep it even if you report it. And another thing to look out for is who's contacting you. We went over this, but if you have, let's say, a phone number or a text from somebody you don't know, that's also a red flag. And so just stopping, thinking and confirming, going directly to the source, not using any links or phone numbers given to you in the suspicious message, looking out for each other, always asking your family, getting people and their input is also really helpful. And remember, even though all of this can seem scary, you are in control. You get to decide who do you give your information to, who are you going to trust, and just remembering that as. Now we're going to go into reporting and recourse, and so what to do if you've been targeted or scammed. And so
Yeah.
I think the really important thing to remember is that it can be hard not to fall for this in the moment because your emotions are high and it feels very convincing and they're pressuring you to act now. And so don't be embarrassed about it because you are the victim. These people are trained on how to manipulate, trained on how to get money. This is what they do, and the reason they do it is because it's effective and it's hard not to fall for it. Emphasizing that if you have been, to let your family members know. It can be hard in the moment because you might feel embarrassed, but you need support around you and you need to let people know so that you can have that support. And if you've seen a scam or been a victim of a scam, to let people know, to report it, because that helps keep other people as well from being susceptible to these attacks. So some specific ways you can do this. In the middle, there are 2 different links of places that you can go to report. IC3.gov right here, that one will report it to the FBI. And reportfraud.ftc.gov is another place that you can go to report. These are mainly just reports. This is going to let law enforcement know that there's a scam going on so that they can do what they need to do to help stop it. Because if no one's reporting it, they don't know that it's happening, and that reporting will help them know so that we can reduce these scams. But in order to get help for your specific case, then you're going to want to file a local police report. That's where you're going to want to go in order to get personal help for your case. And you also want to make sure that you document everything. Any screenshots, any evidence that you may need in order to share that with your local police, that will be helpful as well. And if it does have to do with your bank, contacting them, letting them know what happened through a... And then if you've been hacked, the first thing that you're going to want to do is change your password. And another thing in the settings, after you change the password, some settings will show you how many devices are logged into that account. And if you see any suspicious devices, log that account out so that they no longer are in your account and have access to it, and then change the password so that they can't get back in. Yes?
There's some helpful tools like in your phone or whatever that help you remember passwords or
Yes.
how safe.
That's a great question. We actually are also going to mention that and go over password managers and how to handle passwords in the next section. But yes. Also make sure that you stop all contact. There's no reason to explain yourself. There's no reason to say goodbye. Just stop communicating with them in all forms. Document whatever you need as evidence. Whatever organization it is, whether it's your bank or some sort of account that you have, you can notify that organization of the activity. And something that you can do just in general is to consider a credit freeze on your bank account. That way nobody can use and take out loans on your behalf. Yes.
I just want to say that if you do screenshots and you have speed drives and you go to the FBI, they don't look at any of that. They only look at stuff that's on paper. And the same thing with the police department too.
I've had good luck with the police
Yeah.
department.
I had a friend who was just hacked and she did all of those things and she reported it to social security. Oh, a friend of mine was recently hacked. She did all these things and they reported it to Social Security also. And they basically, the bottom line was that Social Security would get around to it in 3 or 4 months and they may or may not give you a new number. Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's beyond this.
Right, and it's also unfortunately it can be a long process. That's why local law enforcement is probably your best bet because that's more personalized to you. Normally, especially if you go to that IC3 website, that's more so just for reporting. They're not going to look at your specific case. That because that's more at the federal level, that's for them to figure out what scams are going on, how to stop it. But the local police office, that's where you go to get like your personal account information or like to get the help that you need. But we're going to move on to personal safety and how to stay protected and protect your privacy online. And Ivan's going to come up and tell you all about that.
Hello, everyone. We're going to go over the safety of your personal information and some tools that can help you with that. So why do privacy settings matter? The reason that privacy settings matter is because it could lead to unintended consequences. We discussed earlier about spear phishing and how attacks can be personalized towards you, so it seems more credible. And that's why it's important to think before you post things like a birthday post or your children's name. Those are things that scammers will look into to try to use against you when they call, when they email. Also, one thing is when you're posting on vacation, things like that, they'll try and use in a spear phishing attack. And the cost of free apps or free anything, you all think about it, you're like, how are they making money if this app is free? Something like that. When that happens, the reason could be is that you might be the product. It could cost free to you, but they could be using your personal information and selling it to other advertisers, to data brokers, and you don't even know about that. But that is how they'll be making the money. Things like a social media quiz. So, for instance, if you're on Facebook, it's a fun little personality quiz, something like that. They can use that information. They could use personal information and sell it to third parties, and just make money off of your information. The same thing with free apps. For example, if you were to download a weather app and they asked to access your contact lists, it's like, I don't think the weather app should need my contact list, but that's what they try to do just to try and get as much information out of you. So this is an example, like I said, of the Facebook quiz. It would be like, which Disney princess are you? Like, oh, okay, I'll click on it. And before you begin, it will request to access your basic information, such as your name, your picture, your gender, your list of friends, and access your contact information, your home address. It's like, why do they need my home address to know which Disney princess I am? So it's just things to think about. It's like, what's going on here? And we're talking about selling your information, and it's saying who's buying this information, who's selling this information. These companies are called data brokers, and data brokers, they will collect, they'll analyze, sell all this information, and you won't even know about it. And it's important to note that some of these companies that do this are pretty big companies. For example, Experian. Experian is a big credit reporting tool, but they're also one of the biggest data brokers in the world. So it's important to note that you just don't even know what's happening. And your privacy is important. It's important. We talked about recognizing these attacks, recognizing data grabs. Like if a quiz was to ask you for your date of birth or things like that, just take a second to think like, why do they need that information from me? Privacy policies. Usually, or at sometimes, if you scroll to the bottom of a privacy policy, it'll tell you about the data that they're collecting and who they share it with. And we spoke about the weather app that wants access to your contacts list. There's a whole bunch of apps that will request for like some certain type of information. It's always important to try and limit that as much as possible. Like, for example, a gaming app doesn't need your location and things like that. And minimal disclosure. So also, of course, it's important, just try to keep the information you share out on the internet as little as possible, because it could be used against you at some point. And it's okay to be cautious about the information that you share online. It's not paranoia. You are being careful about your information, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's being smart. And like we said earlier, it's important to note that you are in control of your information. One thing that we say is like, you wouldn't hand the keys to your house to a stranger out in the street. So why would you give your personal information to someone on the internet that you don't know either? And we're going to go into some helpful security tools. And the first one is cookies. So of course, you go on a website and ask for your cookies, and it'll pop up on your screen, this and that. Cookies are text files. They're stored on your device when you visit a website. And it's important to note that there's different types of cookies. There are necessary cookies, which is what keeps you logged into a website. So if you're on Amazon and you add something to your cart and then you close it and an hour later you go back to Amazon, that item is still in your cart. These are necessary cookies at work, and they're just saving that type of information for you. But there are also third-party cookies, which are used by advertisers to track you across different types of websites. So for instance, if I'm on Amazon and I search a shoe, and then I'll go to walmart.com and you see you about to type, and even before you type the suggested says shoes, those are your third-party cookies working, and they're tracking you across the different websites. So it's always like, how do they know I'm thinking of that? Well, it's your third-party cookies. And a few recommendations is to reject all non-essential cookies. Obviously, the necessary cookies are required, but and if you do accidentally like click yes to certain types of cookies, you are able to clear your cookies. If you go to the settings in your browser, you can clear out your cookies, and it's recommended to do that regularly, just to make sure your information is not shared. Yes.
Go into a little more detail. I mean, you go to settings, will it then say cookies?
So usually, at least for like Firefox, Google Chrome, you can go to the settings, and it'll usually be like a cogwheel or something.
Mhm.
And once you get to the settings, it could show different types of like settings options.
It's usually under security.
Yes, it usually is under security. Thank you for that.
Which cookies are non-essential. When I go to the FSU website, it always wants me to accept cookies. I ignore it, and it sits there and blocks my view.
So it will tell you like the website uses cookies, and there will usually be like an option to select which cookies that you want to allow. So now some of them, they don't even have like the options up there, and they just say allow all or allow selection. And then so it'll have you go to like maybe like a different, be like, if you go to like allow selection, it will just take you to a different screen that will allow you to select. So they just try and get you to just click allow right away. That I'm not super sure about the FSU website, but we can. Yeah, so then you can do that as well.
Well, a typical rule of thumb is usually the cookies that are from that website usually have their name in them. And the third party cookies typically have a name that is not associated. So if you're on the FSU website, their cookies will typically have their name somewhere in it. And the third party ones will look up and have for them. Experience or whatever. They have their name done legally, so. But it will really vary from site to site and router to router. Like, we can't really go into that bunch of things here. But yeah, something that we should look up if you're like in front of you.
The next thing that we're going to discuss is HTTP versus HTTPS. And the only difference is just the S at the end, which stands for secure, actually. And nowadays, browsers will actually tell you when you're using HTTP versus HTTPS. Usually, when you're using the secure version, HTTPS, you'll see a lock on the URL, like making sure that it's secure. And if you're using HTTP, there'll usually be like red or an exclamation mark, letting you know that this is an insecure connection. And this will be on your URL. So if you're on your phone or your tablet, you can look at your address bar, which could be at the top or the bottom now. And for a computer, at the top left of your browser, you can see the lock or exclamation point. And creating strong passwords. So here's a little bit about some do's or don'ts. Yes.
Secure in what sense? What's it protecting?
So this essentially means that it's your traffic that is passed along. Your traffic that is passed along the internet is encrypted, which means it's not just like plain if I use username password, when a hacker takes in that information, they'll see username password. Like they'll see it in plain sight and be like, okay, just grab it, copy paste. But which HTTPS, it's encrypted. And so even if they were to get into the website, they won't know your exact username and password.
That's mostly for like your financial stuff, like banks and things like that. Usually
Well, yes, most or honestly all reputable websites should be HTTPS now. And here's some do's and don'ts about creating strong passwords. Yes, passwords can be annoying, but it is important to make sure that they are long. Now it's important to keep it at least 12 characters long because the length is the most important factor when it comes to it. It's also important to mix it up. Make sure you're using all different types of characters. It's an uppercase, lowercase, numbers, symbols, and to make sure it's unique. It's important to use different passwords along different websites because if a website is to get attacked or something, then they have not just the password for that website, but all of your accounts that you have on different websites. And it's important to not use personal details because if an attacker was to try to log into your account, not knowing your password, the first things that they'll do is try things like your birthday or your name or like we discussed earlier, the information that you showed publicly online. And you could try a memorable password, like a phrase or something like that. This one, that's a pretty long password. It's Purple Train Sunday 64 Clouds, but that's just an example. And the reason that we talk about making sure passwords are long and strong is because this is actually a little chart of how quickly a hacker can guess a password based on how long it is and how many characters, different types of characters there are. And for instance, if I have a lowercase password that's just 6 characters long and it's only lowercase letters, it could take a hacker just under an hour to log into my account. And it's important to note that this, sorry.
Anyway, just to run the.
Correct. And it's important to note though that this is just with like if there's no like maximum login attempts on a website. Most websites do have that now, but this is just in the case like some websites don't have max login attempts, then and a hacker can just repeatedly continue to attempt until they log in. And that's why it's just important to use longer passwords just in case to make sure even just the difference of one character. And I know we talked a lot about passwords, making sure they're very long, making sure they're very secure, making sure that you have a different password for every single website. That's a lot. And so one thing that's very important to use is to use a password manager. I know someone brought up earlier that they have the password app on their phone. Yeah, Apple has that passwords app. Androids, they use the Google Password Manager. Some different ones are Bitwarden and OnePass. And it's just a secure vault for all of your passwords. And that way, you don't have to remember every single password for every single website. You just remember this one password, and that information is stored into the manager app.
In a lot of cases, I don't have to type in my username and password because the system remembers.
Correct. Yes.
I'll hover over or it'll suggest it and I can choose from that.
Right. And it'll just say like, oh, it'll recognize the website that you have a password on and it'll autofill it. Correct. I'm sorry. So there are some paid versions and there's some free versions. For instance, like for the Apple, it's with the Apple OS already. But I know Bitwarden has a free tier and a paid subscription.
Where they get your bank information.
There's a lot of applications now or websites where they'll text you a code.
Correct.
On your phone that allows. Oh,
correct. And that's actually what we're going to go over right now. It's two-factor authentication. So back in the early days of the internet, you know, if you forgot your login, you could get like a security question like, what was the name of your first pet? Or what was the name of your elementary school? Things like that. And that was the early stages of two-factor authentication. That has now led more into sending verification codes to your email, to your phone number. And it's just authorizing that you are the actual person logging in and just making sure that it's not just someone else logging into your account, that it's actually you. And another big type of two-factor authentication now is authenticator apps. Microsoft and Google have their own Duo, and it's just an app as shown right over here. It's an app that will just have a one-time passcode for you, and it will change that passcode every time you log in. Passkeys. So passkeys are that instead of typing a password, your device can actually store your device stores something like, for instance, your face or your fingerprint, and that can be used to sign into your account instead of a password. And actually, passkeys are stronger than two-factor authentication, and the reason for that being because a scammer can actually guess your password, but they can't guess your facial features, your fingerprint. So it's good to it's good to use passkeys whenever possible. Yes.
But it's or your pen, and that's generally 4 to 6 letters, and it seems like that would be something that they can guess.
So with passkeys, it's a very more complex, like technologically wise. I can go into it a little later once we're all finished up. Yes.
Toward the end of life, and so our daughter has this LastPass thing. And I've seen, and of course, I don't know if it's true, on Facebook, they're saying that, you know, when you demise that you're, you know, like in our case, our daughter would be able to get into our information that I've given her LastPass passwords to, you know, like the banking or whatever. And they're not able to, like, she wouldn't be able to get into that. Is that true?
So you're saying that your daughter cannot access your LastPass?
When we demise, and she needs to do our end of life stuff, to close out our estate, will she be able to still be able to get into our accounts to do that? Through LastPass, but they're saying that they can't because she's got the information to get it into my phone. She doesn't have my face, but that's my password.
I'm not too sure, but we can. Correct. Yes. That is something we can discuss later, but you may have to talk to someone else about that. But for the next thing I want to talk about is checking to see if your data is in a leak. For instance, if you want to see, like, maybe my email was in an attack previously, something like that, you can go to a website such as haveibeenpwned.com. And this website will actually allow you to enter your email address, and it will look through all previous breaches and things like that, and it will let you know if your email address was in a previous breach. And it can also do this for passwords as well. And now with password managers, they actually can check and see, like, if this specific password was in a previous breach. Like the example right here, it says that this password was in a lot of breaches previously. Yes.
So is it difficult then for a hacker to hack into the password managers that you have set up?
So password managers, they essentially obviously they have strong encryptions, but we'll go into a little more about that. And VPNs, virtual private networks. So a VPN will wrap your internet connection in an encrypted private tunnel. And the best analogy for this is if you're sending a postcard. You send a postcard through the mail, anyone can read it, whatever. But instead of doing that, you can actually just send a letter with a sealed envelope. And that is what the VPN does. And I know VPN can be confusing sometimes, so it's important to know, like, what it can do versus what it doesn't do. And this will hide your browsing activity from your internet provider. But this does not mean that you are completely anonymous online to do whatever you want to do on the internet. It can protect you from people snooping when you're on a public Wi-Fi, like when you're on your local coffee shop, or if you're at the airport. But it will not protect you from scams or phishing, things like that. And it also will protect your location, because when you go to visit a website, the website will see the location of the VPN. And it's important to use. It's important to note that it matters most for VPNs when you're on public Wi-Fi, like I talked about, because there could be people trying to snoop around the internet traffic on that local Wi-Fi, and the VPN will protect you from those people trying to snoop. Some examples of VPN are NordVPN, Proton VPN, Surfshark, and ExpressVPN. And the majority of, well, all VPNs, they do have a subscription fee, except for Proton does have a free tier, but you're very limited. So we did bring up a lot of different security tools. Yes.
Class should offer, people sit down with your computer or your phone, and take a class that's walking through all this stuff.
We have discussed it, but we haven't, nothing as of now.
It's great to get all this stuff, then you wanna go home and you're like, okay, now what do I do?
Right.
Right.
Of course, we have discussed it before, but we haven't been able to do this yet. And a little bit about the making sure you choose the right tools when it comes to security. Obviously, of course, before you sign up, you want to do your own research. Make sure that these tools are reputable sources. You can always look up the tool that you want to use, see if it was in a breach, or just see reviews from different people before. Because even trusted tools can get attacked. LastPass was brought up. LastPass was actually had a big data breach back in 2022, but that was it 4 years now, and they're still one of the very popular password managers today. And of course, it's important to be careful with free apps. You'll see a lot when we talked about VPNs just recently. A lot of people will say, "Oh, try this free VPN and this and that," but like we talked about before, this free VPN will make money by selling your information, which is kind of ironic because that's the reason that you're using a VPN. So, of course, it's important just to, do your research before signing up for something and putting your information out there. Yes.
We do all this. In the last couple of years, we've got 3 notifications. TMH has been breached and gotten our data, and 1 from the bank. So how do you protect yourselves from those organizations?
That is a great question. We'll get back to that later. And so for where to look when it comes to looking up for security resources, making sure you're looking at reputable websites. These are a few of the websites that you can look at. From Wirecutter, it's run by the New York Times, and they usually give out a lot of recommendations about different tools that you can use. Consumerreports.org, they have unbiased ad-free testing. I use PCMag for different types of reviews because they go very much in depth about different types of tools or just any type of technical reviews. And another one is cnet.com. And we are going to go into some productivity and AI with Amelia.
Okay, hi guys. We're still hanging in there. This is the final stretch, all right? We're gonna hopefully end on a higher note. We're gonna talk about productivity and AI how-tos. So using these kinds of tools in your everyday life. I know artificial intelligence can kind of seem like an overwhelming, super technical kind of thing, but it's been around longer than you think, and you've been using it longer than you think. So we're gonna go into a few more examples of that kind of stuff. This is just a reminder, of course, privacy. Use all of these tools up to your own discretion, and always just consider the kinds of things that you're putting into these tools, especially personal information. That's going to include your full name, your address, your social security number, health information, finance information. So just be mindful of what you're doing and kind of the intended purpose of how you're trying to use these tools. This is all important because AI tools are constantly trained on the data that is being input into them. So not to sound like this, but the second you put that information in there, it is no longer yours. You cannot unshare that. You cannot unsend that. And so it's being used to improve the models. Companies can look at it. That can kind of go into the idea of looking back at the privacy settings, terms of service, who can kind of see this information. And again, let's be more general and not as specific. So again, don't include super specific details about yourself or the kinds of matters that you're dealing with. Again, just treat anything as you put into these prompts as public information. Again, the whole idea of don't share your house key with a stranger. Try not to, or at least try as little as possible to share your personal information online. So like I said, AI has been around for longer than you think, and you've already been using it longer than you think. An example like this, I know a lot of you said that you have smartphones currently. So you have been using it with a Face ID. You have been using it with a fingerprint, Siri on your phone, voice to text, all that jazz. That is artificial intelligence, like to its core. Another example is navigation. So you get in your car, you're ready to use Google Maps or Apple Maps or whatever you want to use. It'll find that route for you. That's artificial intelligence. It'll tell you this is the fastest one as opposed to this one, and avoid traffic and delays. Again, it all goes back to AI at the end of the day. We have email. It can filter out spam. We have those kind of automated suggested replies that it could suggest. It'll auto sort into categories like spam or important or flag or whatever. Again, artificial intelligence. And photos. That can group by facial recognition. It can group certain people that are found in your camera roll. It can sort by location where these photos were taken, certain events it can detect, like this is a sporting event, this is a concert. It can sort all of that. This is another example. I'm going to go into a few more examples after this, but you probably have heard of this. It's a smart home. So the biggest example there is with thermostats, and you have a Nest. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but these kinds of devices that are listed here are just devices that learn your habits and your routines, and they can pick up and adjust accordingly. So again, the example with a Nest is the thermostat. So say you go and you work an 8 to 5, that will kind of detect when you leave the house and when you return. It can adjust accordingly, save bills, your clean energy, that whole idea. Again, we have smart speakers. That's the all familiar Amazon Alexa or Echo. We also have a Google Home these days. That can be super convenient. I use my Alexa every single day. It's my alarm clock. I use it for music. I use it for recipes. It's just convenience at the end of the day. It can be a benefit to you. It's very easy to use. It's very user friendly. Another idea is we have a smart camera. The common ones there are, I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but it's a Ring camera or a Blink camera. Those auto detect figures or movement. It can detect stuff at your front door like, oh, you're getting a package now. And this is all connected to your smartphone. So you can get these notifications as it's happening in real time. Of course, with all of this, there's always a privacy suggestion. These are always on. That's how they work. That's how my Alexa can know when I'm saying Alexa, because it is always on and it's always listening. So again, just be mindful of what you have on there and what you're actually putting into these kinds of devices. A general security tip is to change the default password per usual. When you get a new device, set it up and to your own personal configurations, keep that software updated and stick to those quality name brands. Another example of using AI right now for its benefit is in the health and wellness world. So I know we've probably all heard of a Life Alert. We can have an Apple Watch these days, which is a wearable device, again, tied to Apple, but it can track your steps, your sleep quality, your heart rate, calories, the whole nine. With that comes the benefit of having health alerts and medication reminders. So stuff that can detect an irregular heart rhythm or anomalies. It can sense a fall like your typical Life Alert could do. It would be really helpful for medication reminders. I know we added that in there because it can like pop up on your watch. It can pop up on your phone. Honestly, all of this is tied to your phone. Again, you set these reminders. AI will let you know. And another one, smart coaching, that's also similar, but it can track your steps. It can build your routine because it knows your routine. It knows your body. and it'll personalize all that to you. The biggest thing that I want to emphasize here is that AI, again, can be super convenient and super beneficial. And to be honest, it's not going to go away anytime soon. So we can use it to our benefit. But it is not a doctor, and it's never going to replace a doctor or a human. So always share these kinds of results or findings with a trusted medical professional. Don't just blindly trust the AI or the Apple Watch that you're wearing. Another cool benefit right now is AI for communication. So Apple's newest feature on their AirPods, which are these wearable little headphones, they can actually do live translation. So AI for communication is just tools that can help you better understand, be understood, and connect to your surroundings. Again, like I said, it can do real-time translation, just like your standard Google Translate can. So you can actually be having a conversation with somebody in a different language, and it'll be translating in your ears, which I think is super cool. I know they're also being used as hearing aids these days. Dictation. Instead of typing on a keyboard, AI helps dictate your spoken word. That's been around forever. That's voice to text. That's text to speech typing, hands-free typing. Again, it all comes back to artificial intelligence. We have an idea of OCR, which stands for optical character recognition. That's just a really fancy way of saying turning turning physical text into digital text. So you can scan a picture or a document and you can actually have the text on your phone. You can zoom in, zoom out, you can copy and paste all from your phone. So we got a good survey of the room earlier about who's using these kinds of tools right now, using ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, all that kind of stuff. But this is a little bit more of what it's good at and what it's maybe not so good at. I think the biggest thing that I want to emphasize here again is that you need to trust but verify. So the first one we have here on Be Cautious is about facts, right? Like you can't just automatically trust the AI chatbot. It's the factual information may not be of quality. So I would stick to using AI as just for explaining, summarizing, simplifying, better understanding, use it to your benefit, but don't just use it for facts and statistics and trust. Trust but verify. Again, if you have not used these tools yet, or if you have, this is kind of an idea of how to use them and how to write good prompts. So what you're actually using to talk to these AI chatbots. A little helpful rule of thumb here is to be as specific as possible, but again, still don't share any super personal information. The quality of the output that you get from this AI is going to entirely depend on the quality of the prompt that you're writing. So this is an example here. Write an email about my appointment. This AI is not really going to know what kind of email you want, what kind of appointment you're even talking about, how long, how short, what do you want to include. So a better example would be write a polite email to my doctor's office asking to reschedule my appointment from March 5th to any date after March 12th. Keep it brief. So that's really specific, but again, here I'm still not giving it the name of my doctor's office and I'm not giving it my name. I can fill out that information on my own. This is not taking away my ability to critically think. We're still going to go and fill in that personal information. So if you only remember one thing from this presentation, urgency. That is a major red flag of a scam. We want all of you to be as safe as possible and feel super empowered to use the internet, use AI. Like I said, it's not going to go away anytime soon. So use it to your benefit. It really is a great tool if you use it in the right way. And just be mindful of everything online. Stay safe. And I think we're going to have Commissioner Minor come up and say thank you. On behalf of the Cybersecurity Community Outreach Organization at FSU, I just want to say thank you guys. This was a great opportunity to speak. We're going to stick around for questions, of course.
There you go. Let's hear it for our instructors. Matthew, Sophia, Amelia, and Ivan, thank you all so much for not just presenting today, but also for all the work on the contents. It's absolutely incredible. How many of you all found this very helpful? I think that's everybody. Listen, it's very important that that word about scams, how to avoid them, gets out throughout the community. We are going to have in the near future, this training will be available for streaming. So once that's available, if you've registered with us, you'll be notified, and we'll also be having Leon County promote this streaming option available to everybody. When you hear that it's available, please share it with your friends and family. Florida is the #1 state when it comes to fraud and identity theft. And it's one of the top 3 states in the cost of cybercrime. So if we can reduce the cost upon our citizenry, that's a huge, it's a lifesaver for them, right? Listen, I also want to thank our Leon County Community and Media Relations team. They did an incredible job setting with lunch, with promoting this event. I really want to give a big hand to Matt Cavell and Kiana Gillian for everything that they're doing to And then also I want to thank our host, Ms. Pamela Monroe, our director of Leon County Libraries and the library system, for hosting us here today. And then thank you all very much for being here. It means a lot. I hope that this has helped you living in this digital world that we live in. Very important. Please spread the word and be suspicious. There's urgency. That's the red flag. Okay. Let me hand it over to Pamela. Thank you all for being here.
All right, thank you, everyone. You will have an opportunity for questions, but I just wanted to give you a couple of dates that we have to kind of extend this. The library is always putting on programs, and see, I had it up and now it's gone. Let me use my smart device with my facial recognition in order to open it up. So we have video calling basics on the 28th at Woodville. We will have a digital wellness finding balance next month. We've got AI in everyday life, and we're going to have a fantastic library lecture that I'm really excited about. That is Words from the Machine, Why AI Chooses the Words It Does. So number 3, the digital wellness? Is that the one? It is going to be, but yes, that will be here at that's going to be at NEB on the 25th of April. But you can find we'll have all of this information actually on our events flyer, and that way I don't have to continue. My phone is slipping and doing weird things, and then I'm gonna get and then I'm gonna get scammed because I feel a lot of pressure. You don't want that, trust me. Thank you though very much, Commissioner Minor, for pulling all of this together, because it's his efforts to bring this to all of us as a community, and of course your students. So yes, ma'am.
Do you approach kids, and I don't mean young kids, but like middle school adaptation of this? I'm talking about like 6, 7, 8, those that kind of mid-range where they have a little more autonomy now, but I don't know.
So the library puts on all sorts of digital literacy programs throughout the year. We have a focus in that. That's one of our focus areas is literacy and lifelong learning. So I would really say stay tuned and pay attention to our events calendars, because we are continuously putting out information related to this. And so I know all of you have questions. I'm going to stop there and I'm going to hand it over to Matt so that he can answer any questions you may have. But thank you very much for coming.
So our organization actually does have dozens of different events that we host, typically over at the Tallahassee Senior Center Foundation, as well as here at the local libraries. We try to do them semesterly where we have seminars. So that can absolutely be a great recommendation for our organization in future semesters. So just be on the lookout for what events are occurring here at the library. We typically have flyers out front, other things like that. So yeah.
Mention of it, I didn't hear it said before, but if your computer does get taken over, the screen is locked up and your cursor, you can't move your cursor. You press the off button on your computer. Just press that down until your computer goes off. So I shut it down. wait a few minutes, that should make your virus go away, am I right?
So what that will do, if you hold the power button on your computer, it will turn it off. It'll do a forced shutdown. And then when you turn it back on, you can see if that issue went away. And if it didn't, turn it off again and bring it to a professional here in town. Yep.
Close it down, don't touch anything on that screen, don't.
Yep.
Anything on that screen that you.
Yep. So if your computer ever locks down, it's a very good thing to do is to just hold the power button. Yeah.
Center briefly, every week fourth, starting tomorrow. Another thing, of course, at the town has the research center. Starting tomorrow.
So I also wanted to mention, we had a question about like, breaches in local hospitals and all over, right? Oh, yes, sorry. So, we had a question about all sorts of breaches happening outside of our control. And that's something that I do want to like highlight, is that oftentimes some things are like out of our control. And a lot of the things that we spoke about during the privacy section, as well as during the scam sections, these are things that we have control over, right? So when it comes down to like, local hospitals being breached and things like that, that's not usually within our control, which is unfortunate, but it's just part of the world that we live in today. And what's important is if we recognize these sort of things and stay aware of the news, we can see those and then respond to them, report them, and take action as we see it coming. But a lot of the things that we spoke about today are actions we can take now or in the future to just stay a little bit safer online and in our world. So that was just, we got a really good question about that. So once again, just be aware of what's happening and be aware of the techniques that a lot of these scammers are using. Yes.